This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.
Yo! What is good, Sixer Nation? Welcome on in to another edition of Philly Take with RB Live in the off season, the biggest Sixers off season ever. And we'll be breaking down all the news, the rumors, but most importantly, we finally got a real update. Even though the playoffs are still on, we know what direction the Sixers are trending in, looking to add the likes of a big-time name on some big-time money. But is it the right choice? Guess we'll just have to talk about it all, man. What do you think the Sixers should do? Do they get another star? Do they get a role player? Two names today, two huge targets on the Sixers' radar. We'll talk about their cap space, whether this could actually happen, and if it should. Got a lot to get into, man. Sixers roster is going to look completely different. There are no more excuses. Draft picks, all the cap space in the world. It all comes down to whether the Sixers can finally build a competent roster with Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey, and boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to get into. Welcome on in, everybody. Philly Take with RB Live. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button if you enjoy the show. All the content, we drop videos every day. We go live, and we also give you all the coverage that you need. Hit the subscribe button, share the show around. A lot more shows incoming this off season. I know a lot of Sixer fans have been tapped out, but man, things are getting spicy already. If you want to call into the show, if you want to chime in and give your thoughts a little later on, join the Philly Take Discord. We don't have the phone lines up right now, but we do have the Discord where you can call in from anywhere in the world and talk about the 76ers. I know we have a lot of frustrated Sixer fans right now wondering what is going to happen next. 4 teams remain in the NBA playoffs. And once we get through the end of the playoffs, I mean, the Sixers are going to be on the clock. I mean, they already are, but, you know, free agency is going to hit right away. Draft is going to hit right away. They have to get a lot of people in the building this offseason. They only have 4 guys on the roster right now. 3 guys on the roster. Could be 2. So we'll see. We will see. But anyway, man, welcome on in. Be sure to follow us on all platforms. Support the show. And I want to give the people a chance to chime in. So if you guys are in the comments right now, please let me know your thoughts. Paul George, as we know, has been really the top target for Daryl Morey. We heard him in his exit presser talk about wanting to put the right fit around Maxey and Embiid no matter how old they were. So I'm going to give you my thoughts on all that. Gutman9 with a $5 super chat. Thank you very much. Says the right move is to trade Embiid. He had a competent roster in 2019 and lost. He single-handedly squared 2021. You can't make excuses 7 years in a row. What do you guys think about that take in the chat? I completely disagree with that. You can absolutely make excuses because they're not excuses. They're the truth. Joel Embiid, every year of his career, outside of 31 games in his rookie season, has had to deal with the likes of Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris. So you could call it excuses. Joel Embiid has been put through the ringer. Give the guy a competent squad. Has Joel failed? Absolutely. Has he had his own shortcomings? Absolutely. But we can't sit here and act like the Sixers have constructed a proper roster around Joel Embiid. So to sit there and say he single-handedly messed up 2021 is ridiculous. If the Sixers had any other player other than Ben Simmons on that roster, they are in the finals. In the finals. Like I said, Joel Embiid has to be better. He has to show up in big games. But you have to give him a good supporting cast. You can't give him a max player who puts up 0 points in an elimination game. And that's just the facts of it. So I don't disagree completely because I think everybody has to look at themselves in the mirror, but it has been rough for Joel Embiid. And I'm standing on that. But this is the last chance to make it right. This is the last opportunity, man. 100%. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, please be sure to hit that thumbs up if you're just tapping in. We have a lot to get into, a lot of rumors, bombshell report coming out today. We will talk about all of it. Before I do that, I got to give a shout out to BetUS. Tonight's show is sponsored by BetUS, the best out there doing it. And you can get a 125% deposit match bonus just by using our link right down in the description. We will send it through in the chat as well, but they have the best unique bets, special promotions, and they have 24/7 service, 24-hour payouts, and just some of the most unique bets you can find out there. I mean, you can even bet what team Bronny is going to get drafted by, things like that. So definitely check out BetUS. But together, we are going to predict who wins tonight. Timberwolves or Mavericks? Who do you guys think's winning that series? Timberwolves or Mavericks? Timberwolves -4.5 in game number 1 on their home floor tonight. Took down the reigning champs on the road. I think Minnesota's coming out on fire tonight, and I think they win game 1, and I do think they cover. So I'm going with the Minnesota Timberwolves to take it home tonight. I think it's going to be a deep series, though. I think it's going 7. And it could go either way, but I'm taking Minnesota over on BetUS. So once again, use our link, get a 125% deposit match bonus on your first 3 deposits up to $2,500. Shout out to BetUS for always supporting the show. I got my money on the T-Wolves, but you know what I really have my money on? On Daryl Morey going all in for Paul George. Am I doing the game tonight? Yes, I will be live for the game later tonight, so be sure to tap in with that as well. $2 super chat from Bold Brew says, trade Joel for Adebayo, build around Maxey. What's up with all these people coming in talking about trade Joel? That's where we're at? Is that where we're at, Sixer Nation? Let me know in the chat. Are we done? Are we ready to just blow it up tonight? Are we ready to blow it up tonight? Is that where we're at, man? What's going on? What's going on right now, man? Boy, oh boy. I know this is the biggest offseason ever. I know you have to get it right this time. If they don't get it right this time, I'm ready to blow everything up, man. Get it out of here. Get it out of here if they don't get it right now. The only reason I backed Daryl Morey is because he's had to deal with Ben Simmons and Tobias Harris. He inherited those contracts. Now, again, he was able to get off the Simmons contract eventually, whether you think he made the right trade or did not. He could have traded Tobias Harris, and I do fault Daryl Morey for that. He should have traded him. But he didn't sign those contracts. Al Horford, he had to move off. So it's just been really a barricade of just awful contracts by the 76ers that Morey has inherited. But now all that is gone. They are off the books. You have full flexibility to make trades, to sign players. Can't go out there and bring in 3 centers this offseason. You have to get a competent roster, man. They need to get it done now. Rick Bennett, member for 43 months. Rick!
Yes, sir.
Rick, what's up, my guy? Says this should be an interesting offseason. Shout out to all the members in the chat and my guy Rick, the OG of Philly Take. Let's get into the report, man. So today we get a report from Evan Sideri, who covers the NBA, and he reports on behalf of Kevin O'Connor. The Sixers believe they have a real chance of signing Paul George away from the Los Angeles Clippers. Per Kevin O'Connor, Philly can afford Paul George on a max contract this summer to pair alongside Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey. Ladies and gentlemen, should the 76ers sign PG-13? 34 years old. Coming off a disappointing playoffs again with the Clippers. Should the Sixers sign PG? Is he the answer? Because we talked about PG. We talked about Jimmy Butler. We talked about Brandon Ingram already. Kevin Durant. That's why you got to stay in tap with the content, man. We're dropping gems. We talked about trade targets. Is Paul George the guy? And it feels like since even months ago, like towards the end of the season, people were already linking Paul George to the 76ers. And now it feels like he is at the top of the target list. It feels like Daryl Morey is honing in on Paul George. The question is, one, does he want to leave the Clippers where, he's from the West Coast? He's comfortable. He's got his family out there. I don't know. I don't know if he does. I don't know Paul George. He's got his podcast rocking out there. Great guest on that. Does he want to give all that up to try to pursue a championship here in Philadelphia? And number two, are the Clippers going to match any offer? Like, are the Clippers willing to pay him? Because we heard reports during the playoffs and after they got eliminated that the Clippers offered him some money below the max and he declined. He said, no, we need to renegotiate. So it seems like the Clippers probably don't view him as a max player right now. I don't know if anybody does, but if Philly goes and tops the Clippers offer, it may be enough for Paul George to take his talents to Philadelphia, and he looks at the fit with probably Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid and is like, wow, this may be a good shot for me to win an NBA championship. So we'll get back to that. Here is more of the quote from Kevin O'Connor, who's on the Bill Simmons podcast. Quote, the Sixers think there's a real chance that they end up with Paul George. From my understanding, talking with people around the league, they think there's a real chance he ends up leaving the Clippers. No guarantees, but there's a chance of it. Now, I want to go to a clip from yesterday as well from Shams Charania. He was on the Up and Adams show, and I would play the whole clip, but I do not want to get hit with any copyright. So here's the best summary of this clip. It's about a minute long. And number one, he talks about Ty Lue, no progress on a contract extension. He talks about Russell Westbrook, uncertainty about whether Russ will opt in. And then keep in mind, James Harden, right? He threw that whole tantrum and he went to LA, but he couldn't sign an extension until the end of the season. Does the LA Clippers franchise view James Harden as a potential max player going forward, who's 34? Because let's be honest, right? These guys have been at their peak. Now they're starting to go down on the decline a little bit. Not that they're bad players or they can't produce, but shelling out money like this, the NBA and ESPN and all these, TV deals and things like that, the salary cap continues to grow year over year. I just saw something today that said, based on the new TV deal and things like that, in 2028, if a player signs a max contract, a super max, the last year of their deal could be upwards of 90 to 95 million. This is insane. So the salary cap continues to grow. You're going to have to pay these guys, 70 plus million when they're 40 years old. Do you really want to do that? Is it worth it to try to get a championship in the first year or two? But anyway, Shams contradicts the report from today, and he says those around the league, quote, have the belief that PG will remain in LA with the Clippers. So is this more of a leverage play for Paul George to try to get that money? Is he going back to LA and saying, well, Philly's willing to pay me. They're willing to give me all the money in the world. So if you want me to stay, you're going to have to match that. And then let's look at it from the Clippers' perspective, right? Because The LA Clippers can't get past their obstacles. They're almost like the Western Sixers, and they've tried a bunch of different combinations. James Harden wants a max contract. Don't know if he's worth it. Definitely didn't look good in those clutch games again. Sixer fans could have told you he would have shot that bad. Kawhi Leonard has a never-ending knee injury that is prolonged. Like, they literally told him, you're just going to have to deal with this knee injury the rest of your career. He was great all season, flamed up in the playoffs, couldn't play. And then Paul George wants a max, and he's 34. So I don't know if the Clippers view it as like, well, if PG leaves or Harden leaves, time to just blow it up. I don't know where they go, man. It's very interesting. But what I will say is that I really do believe deep down that if you had to rank the Sixers targets from Daryl Morey's point of view, I think Paul George is at the top. We've heard the rumor too long. And when there is smoke, there is fire. We learned that with James Harden. And I think Daryl Morey's going to go all in for PG. The question is, will he leave LA? Now, we're going to talk about the fit in 1 second. Carlos Rosado, $5 super chat, says, RB salute. Give me Markkanen, Brogdon, a backup point guard, backup center like Drummond, or maybe Capella. I honestly do not want PG. Carlos, salute, man. Thank you for tapping in with us. Larry Markkanen would be an absolute dream target. I've said that multiple times already, but I don't think there's any way he gets traded. But anyway, we got an additional report from Kevin O'Connor, and this was about OG Anunoby. And part of the O'Connor report, and also shout out to Ian Begley from NY, what is it, New York Post or whatever, New York Sport, SNY. He's on everything. Shout out to Ian Begley, does great work. He says members of the Philadelphia 76ers have seen OG Anunoby as an off-season target. We've presumed, right, that OG Anunoby and Pascal Siakam are going to stay with their teams, but they could definitely shape the free agent market if they ever decided to leave. But anyway, he says Paul George is also a target for Philadelphia. But if the Sixers cannot get Paul George, I could see them making a big offer to Anunoby, if for no other reason than it would force New York to match the money. So should the Sixers overpay for OG Anunoby? Is he worth it? Could OG Anunoby be the backup plan to Paul George? I personally do not believe that OG Anunoby will leave New York. I think they'll give him what he wants. I think if there's an odd man out in New York, it's going to be Julius Randle. I don't think they're going to bring back Bogdanovich. And I think when it comes down to Paul George, the ball lies in his court. Does he want to go across the country with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid to try to compete and maybe get more money? So that's where we're at. That's where we're at. And before I talk about the fits of both of these potential moves, Bleacher Report put out a potential mock lineup, okay? 2024-25. And this did it for me. This is the icing on the cake. Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, Kelly Oubre Jr., Tobias Harris at the 4? What are we doing here, man? Bleacher Report, you guys got to tap into my show, man. You guys got to tap into my show. Get the Sixers fan base pulse. Tobias Harris? Re-sign Tobias for what amount? For what amount? And Joel Embiid at the 5. Come on now. Come on, we got to be serious now. We have to be serious now. Tobias Harris is not returning to Philadelphia. And if he does, the fan base will be in an uproar. There's no way. But hopefully that gave you a little bit of a laugh today. But let's go ahead and talk about the fit. And once again, if you guys are in here, man, do me a favor. Hit the like button down below. We got a lot of people in here, so help us support and push this show around to new fans and other viewers. I know we're not really embedded too much in the offseason yet, but we had to talk about this because, again, Paul George on the 76ers, from a fit perspective, right? Take age out of it, take durability out of it, all that. Paul George feels like a perfect fit with Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. When you look at the fit, right? A wing that can come in, knock down shots at a high rate, play defense, not have to be the guy every night, not be a James Harden who needs 30 shots or else he's going to start complaining. Just a nice, chill, demeanor type of guy to fit right in, who has had some really big games, can take over, has some big moments, can run pick and roll, all that stuff. But when you take the age into consideration, that he's 34, that he's had injury issues, that he's only going to get worse, not better, I get worried about that. The way that I view Paul George right now in terms of a Sixers target, if you can get him on a 2-year deal with maybe a second-year option, I'm all for it. 100%. If it comes down to this offseason and you can't find other players because there's a weak free agent class and LeBron's probably not coming to Philly, you don't want Harden, you don't want Tobias, you don't want any of these other guys, Anunoby goes back to New York, Siakam stays in Indiana, and Paul George is what you're left with and Jimmy Butler's not available, I'm all in on Paul George on a 2-year deal. But in no way would I give him a 4-year max, upwards of 40 to 45 million per year. A lot of people were frustrated the other day when I said I would trade for Kevin Durant if all else failed. The way to build moving forward is not with a 3-star team. You cannot build that way anymore. I said I would trade for Durant if all else failed. That's an important part right there. That's an important component. The Sixers need to get younger, more athletic, and draft guys and bring guys in that they can build with. But the problem is you're sitting here with Joel Embiid, who's 30 years old and is not getting any younger, and you don't want to waste another year of his prime. This was essentially a waste of a great year of Joel Embiid, and the Sixers still took New York to 6 games. So do you pay Paul George a 4-year max with the idea that he can come in and you can win right away? My issue is if you give Paul George 40 to 45 million, how are you going to build out the rest of the team? Look at the Phoenix Suns. You're going to have to then fill the roster with minimums, and that just doesn't work. We are entering a new day and age in the NBA with the new CBA, where if you get 3 stars on your team that you're paying 40 to 50 million per star, essentially you're going to not be able to go and pay anybody else unless you want to face severe penalties in terms of draft picks and signings and sign-in trades and things like that. The way to get 3 stars nowadays is you have to find gems. You have to find 1 star that hasn't been paid yet because he's either a rookie or a second-year guy or a third-year guy, and have a couple other stars already on the team with them. Paul George has not really played well in the playoffs. He's significantly dipped off. I just think that's how the Clippers have been as a team. Like James Harden, same type of thing. Nobody stepped up without Kawhi Leonard in there. I don't trust PG 100%. I think his style of play would fit seamless with Maxey and Embiid. He's another ball handler, another guy who can take pressure off, but I don't trust the durability, and I don't trust him showing up 100% in the big moments. And I don't think he would take a discount or a 2-year deal to come to Philadelphia just because he's embedded in that LA life. Like, that's his life. He enjoys it. Shout out to him. He's got a lot going for him, even outside of basketball. I think the Clippers will try to pay him. Like I said, if it's your last option and that's all you can do, then maybe you overpay. But again, I would not give him a max contract. What do you guys think, man? What do you guys think? Guys, we only got 40 likes in here. Come on, man. Hit the thumbs up button. Hit the thumbs up. Welcome in. Philly Take with RB Live. Now, if it came down to OG Anunoby, hypothetically, I would take OG Anunoby, but no way would I pay him a max either. OG Anunoby right now has a $20 million player option, which he will decline. And OG Anunoby is going to get upwards of $40 million per year. I would not pay OG Anunoby $40 million per year for the reasons I just mentioned. But in addition to that, another guy who has not been healthy. We just saw he tried to come back in game 7 and couldn't play more than 5 minutes. OG Anunoby is not reliable. Look at how many games he's played the last several years. 43 after the championship. 43, 48, 67, 27 last year with Toronto, and 23 with New York. Or 27 this past season. Then he was traded 23. So he only played a total of 50 games. And then he couldn't even stay healthy in the playoffs. Now, I do want to say this. I think people need to caution against worrying about the money too much. Like, I have people telling me right now that, 20 million per year, 15 million per year is too much for Malik Monk. Like, based on the new salary cap projections and based on the type of money these guys are getting now, I think we can't go into overdrive and be so hyper analytical about like 15 million for a role player. But when it comes to $40 million for OG Anunoby, that just is not good for me. What the Sixers need to do is find some gems, some diamonds in the rough that are going to come in at 22, 23 and perform for a couple seasons. For example, if you're watching the Indiana Pacers, they had a colossal choke last night, right? Probably shouldn't even be there. Ben Shepherd was the 26 overall pick. He is playing high playoff minutes. Their number 8 overall pick isn't even playing, and they don't even need him. They had 2 first-round picks last year. Jarris Walker's not playing. Ben Shepherd is playing good playoff minutes. Andrew Nembhard is a second-year player. You have to find guys like that. I keep referencing Denver, but that is how the Sixers are really built to build. You have the 2 cornerstones. You have Joel, the center, and Tyrese, the guard. You have to find the MPJs of the world, the KCPs, the Bruce Browns. You have to find the Aaron Gordons of the world. Question is, can they do it? Can they find those pieces? That's what I'm wondering. And when you look at this free agent class, it's just not that strong. The Knicks are going to pay OG Anunoby $40 million for averaging 14 points a game. Is he a great versatile defender that can defend 3 to 4 positions? Yes. He fits the role in their team. They're more of a complete team. But what do the Knicks have? They have the DiVincenzos of the world who are on discounted contracts. They have Brunson, who's even on a discounted contract. Josh Hart. You have to find those type of players, man. Pascal Siakam is going to get $30, $40 million a year. Do I think he's worth that? No. Just how I see it, man. And I don't, I would not give either one of those guys a max contract. I think Paul George, if he was 4 years younger, I would say absolutely give him that contract. But it is tough. Paul George has a $48.7 million player option that he is about to decline. You think Paul George is going to decline that and take $30 million? No. He's probably going to get a 3 to 4 year contract of $45 to $50 million a year. You got to think about it, man. Obviously, this guy's played a lot. He has made a lot of money. He's been in good situations. Sure, he wants to win a championship, but you're talking about $50 million per year. $50 million per year. It's hard to turn that down, man. We look at the 76ers cap sheet right now. It's only Joel Embiid, who also is up for a potential extension this offseason. Paul Reed, who can be waived. Don't know if they're going to do that yet. I think the last day is like June 25th or 6th. Jeff Doughton Jr., who's probably going to be declined as a club option. And then Ricky Council IV, who you signed at the end of the season. Tyrese Maxey's on a cap hold of 13 mil. So he is going to get a massive max extension this offseason. Matter of fact, if Maxey doesn't make the All-NBA team, his amount will be like 30 to 40 million less. So obviously we want to see Maxey win the accolades, but it almost helps the 76ers if he doesn't make the All-NBA team. But what do you guys think about Paul George? Is he the right fit? What about Jimmy Butler as well? I mean, Butler is the same age, durability issues. If I had to pick between Paul George and Jimmy Butler, I think I'm taking Jimmy Butler. I really think I'm taking JB. Now, you would have to give up assets to get Jimmy Butler, where you would not probably have to do that to get Paul George. And I do think that is a big advantage on the side of PG-13. But I just feel like Jimmy and Joel already have that chemistry established together. They played a half a season together. They almost went to the conference finals. They're good friends. Like, they already have that down. And then you add Tyrese Maxey sprinkled on top of the mix. Maxey, Butler, Embiid. I think that would be lethal. I think Paul George could also really be a good fit. But again, I'm worried about a few main things. And I'm also worried about giving him a max contract. I wouldn't give Butler a max either. So they both have their pros and cons. If you guys want to call into the show and give your thoughts on it, you can join our Discord. We have a phone line going through there. Eventually, we will be getting the phones back up with the actual phone number. But for now, if you do want to give any thoughts, just join our Discord. The link is pinned in the chat. And you can join in on the call-in room or server. And we could take a few phone calls if you want. But how do we feel about PG, man? We'll read a couple comments out. Let's see. RJ, what's up, bro? Shout out to the members in the chat. PG said on his podcast he would take less to win. I have not been in tune with every PG podcast episode, so if there are things that he said that I haven't seen, definitely let me know. KZ says Butler is perfect. David says Paul George is a loser. Phoenix says OG is easily getting 30 to 40 mil per year in free agency. I agree with that. Somebody will pay OG Anunoby, whether it's New York or not. I do believe it will be the Knicks. But even looking at them, right, they have to pay Isaiah Hartenstein. They have, Jalen Brunson, who's going to probably get more money soon. OG Anunoby. So again, I feel like you really have to optimize the window. It's no longer about these guys being here for 10 years. Like, you get 2 to 3 years once you pick those guys, and you have to really optimize and find the gems around. Just like Denver, right? You draft Jokic in the second round. You draft Jamal Murray. Then you trade for Aaron Gordon when, nobody thought his value was there. I was looking up the other day the trade value for Aaron Gordon. I couldn't believe it. What was it, a first-round pick? Gary Harris and RJ Hampton? Aaron Gordon is a perfect fit next to Jokic. They got him for pennies on the dollar. Crazy, man. Wild. Let's see. George is a much better shooter than Butler. He'd fit better with Joel Embiid. He's much better off the ball than Butler is. I do agree with that. I do think Paul George is better off the ball, catch and shoot threat, and can also space the floor a lot better. I think both have some good defensive impact. I would probably give the edge to Butler just with the mentality that he plays with. But again, there's also durability issues when it comes to Jimmy Butler as well. What do we think about the 3-star mentality versus getting, role players, getting all role players compared to a 3rd star? What do we think about that? What do we think about that? Tyree says Jimmy is older, earns more money, and you need to give up assets and is a worse fit. I'm good on him. Bob says Morey re-signing Tobias Harris incoming. He can't. There's no way. There's no way. Prince, what's going on, man? Za in the chat. Phoenix says the only way you lure anybody to Philly is by overpaying. I mean, you could say that for most teams as well. You could say that for most franchises, honestly. Christian says we need a good Embiid backup when he is not on the court. I think there's a lot of areas that the Sixers have to address this offseason pertaining to the availability of Joel Embiid. Like, we struggled for how many months watching Paul Reed and Mo Bamba try to play 40 minutes a night. Just wasn't good enough, you know? I would love if the Sixers could pull off a trade for Caruso. Andre Drummond's going to be a free agent, I believe. Let me double check that, but I'm pretty sure his value is at like $2 million, and he is a free agent. So I would take Drummond back in a heartbeat. Why not? And that's another reason I don't understand why the Chicago Bulls did not trade him at the deadline. Andre Drummond, 31 years old, unrestricted free agent. I would take Drummond back in a heartbeat. Caruso would be nice. Try and trade for Mikal Bridges. Yeah. Mikal Bridges would be an interesting one, too. I don't think Brooklyn will do business, if I'm being honest. But I would inquire. I would inquire. Secret Underdog, what's going on, bro? Andre can't stay on the court. I mean, you're asking him to be a backup. You're asking him to be a backup, which is, what, 8 minutes? 10 minutes? It would be a lot different than it was in Chicago, I'll tell you that. A lot different, for sure. But yeah, man, overall, I just think that Paul George would be a good fit on a 2-year contract. I would not pay him a max because essentially you're asking to get into another Tobias Harris situation. Not that Paul George is going to go out in an elimination game and put up 0 points, but the difference is that, you know, Paul George is 34, right? You're going to really pay a max contract to a guy that's 34 years old? I don't know, man. I think you got to make a trade and try to bank on somebody having upside. Same way that the Denver Nuggets traded for Aaron Gordon and he became what he did. You have to kind of take a chance on somebody and hope that they can become a better player in Philadelphia. So that's my thought on that. Brad says the only way to not overpay is through the draft. Exactly. And the Sixers have had many opportunities in the draft. They just cannot get it right. They just haven't got it right. Paul George may stay in LA anyway. Jimmy Butler may stay in Miami. OG might stay in New York. Pascal might stay in Indiana. And then what? What are the Sixers left with at that point? Here's another player that came up recently in a report a couple days ago, Malik Monk. Evan Sidiri says Malik Monk could earn up to $25 million per year in free agency. Malik Monk, who is still only 26, is set to be aggressively pursued by teams in need of additional shot creation and playmaking. Keep an eye on the Magic, Pistons, Thunder, and the Sixers as potential fits. What do we think about Malik Monk? Is he a good fit with Philadelphia? Because I reposted this and I said that the 76ers should definitely be interested in Malik Monk. And all of a sudden you got Sixer fans in an uproar. That's one of the funniest things I find about Sixers Twitter is that they want everybody and they want nobody. They want the team to be a title contender. They don't want to go get anybody. $25 million is too much. Well, first off, it doesn't say 25 million, okay? It says could earn up to 25 million. Now, maybe a team like Detroit will be willing to overpay, but does Malik Monk want to go from Sacktown to Detroit? Is that where he wants to go? I don't know. If I'm the Sixers, I'm willing to throw 15 million at Malik Monk. Why not? Why not? Great shot creator, knockdown shooter, high energy guy. Struggles a bit on the defensive side, but you need a guy like this off your bench. I feel like I've been saying it for years. I've been saying for years you need a freaking microwave scorer off the bench as a six man. I feel like the Sixers have had guys kind of try out for that. We've seen glimpses of it, but they haven't had that consistent piece like a Malik Monk. Now, would I pay Malik Monk $25 million per year? No. No, I would not. But would I pay him 15 without question? Absolutely. Kyle in the chat says, what about Brandon Ingram? I do think Brandon Ingram will be traded. I think Brandon Ingram is a very curious case, and I don't think the Pelicans can really compete with the way that they're structured right now. I think they just need a little bit different of a fit around Zion, maybe CJ as well. But I think Ingram will be on the trade market. But another guy, like I said, all these players are getting paid. They all want max contracts. So I just don't see Brandon Ingram worth a max contract right now based on how he played, based on how he flamed out down the end of the season for the Pelicans. I would not do that. I would not trade assets and then give a max contract to Brandon Ingram. Right now, the Sixers have all the leverage in the world. They're going to have around 60 to 65 million in cap space. Do they want to spend a huge chunk of that, 2/3 or more, on one player? Or do they get 3 to 4 dogs around Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid? I think there's a couple big questions. One, can Joel Embiid stay healthy? Because what if Embiid goes down, right? Like, you're going to need guys to pick up the load. Second, is Tyrese Maxey willing to continue to be that guy? We saw in the playoffs that Maxey has games where he can be that number one option. I almost feel like Joel Embiid should not be the center of the offense at a lot of the time. That's how I really feel, to prevent injury. There would be games next season where I say, Maxey, you go take us to the win, man. Take us to victory. You saw what happened when Joel Embiid was out. Sixers literally went down a hill, and they couldn't stop rolling. So I don't know, man. It's tough. We'll take a look at the All-NBA teams, and then we will get out of here in just a few. If you guys want to call into the show and give any thoughts on the situation, the Discord link is pinned in the chat. Call in through the Discord. I just saw a notification saying that the NBA all NBA teams have been announced. Let's go ahead and see if they have those up. All right, so we just got an update about Tyrese Maxey. We did get an update about Maxey. We were just talking about his contract, right? And how much money he's potentially going to get. So Tyrese Maxey did not make the All-NBA team, which I do find pretty crazy if I'm being honest. First team All-NBA, Giannis, Luka, SGA, Tatum, and Jokic. Second team All-NBA, Brunson, Kevin Durant, Anthony Davis, Anthony Edwards, and Kawhi Leonard. And third team All-NBA, Devin Booker, Steph Curry, Tyrese Halliburton, LeBron, and Domantas Sabonis. But, like I just said a few minutes ago, this is actually kind of a benefit to Tyrese Maxey. Kyle Newbeck says right here, no All-NBA for Tyrese Maxey. So a max contract for him this summer starts at $35.5 million. It would have started at $42.6 had he been able to make one of the teams. So the Sixers literally just saved $7 million in cap space. So it's a good thing and a bad thing. What do we think about that? Should Maxey have made All-NBA? Should he have made All-NBA? I'm happy, but I'm also frustrated, if that makes sense. Like, I wish he would have won All-NBA honors, but this is a really promising sign. Like I said, the Sixers have all of the tools to be successful right now. All the tools to be successful right now. $5 super chat, Mr. Roddy Poo. What's up, my guy? Joel needs to take a back seat. Maxey is the number one, so we have to build around him. Keep our picks and sign the glue guys. Number one being a starting caliber center. So what do we think about that from Mr. Roddy Poo? He says Maxey should be the number one option. And we need to keep the picks and sign our dogs, our glue guys, including a backup center. Koo in the chat says Miles Bridges from Charlotte. I don't know about that. I don't know if I want to get involved in that with the off-court stuff. There's a lot of off-court stuff, and I feel like it could be a distraction. Prince's blessing in disguise. I would agree with that. I think that's a good way to put it. I think that's a good way to put it. I'd say Maxey was right on the cusp of making it. I do think he should have made it, though, on the third team. But understandable. He will get it one day. He can get it next year now. Maxey being a number one option equals a lottery team. I don't know about that, but I don't know if he's ready to be the number one option to put up 40 a night for an entire season. But at the same time, they haven't given him the right supporting cast either. The same way Joel Embiid has to be given the right talent around him, Tyrese Maxey would have to be given the same kind of talent. So, I don't know, man. As long as Embiid is a Sixer, he's probably going to be the number one, says Dom. I would agree. And I don't know if it's the right decision. I don't even think Embiid should play all the games because, like I said, man, he runs out of gas and he gets injured. How would you feel if we get Luke Kennard for the bench? I made a video on that a couple days ago as a hidden gem. Of course, Sixer fans don't like it. They don't like any acquisition, but like I said, you got to get creative. You have to get creative. Luke Kennard is either going to get declined or picked up and traded unless the Grizzlies somehow view him as a big part of their future. But Memphis has a lot of big decisions to make. I would definitely take Kennard off the bench as a shooter. Absolutely. People are saying to me, why don't we keep Buddy Hield? I'm getting those comments a lot on Instagram too. Yo, why don't you want Buddy Hield back? Why don't we take Buddy Hield? Why don't we get Buddy Hield? Well, I'll tell you a couple reasons. The first one being that the guy absolutely disappeared for 2 months. The guy disappeared for 2 months. And when the Sixers needed him most, he was not good. The other reason I don't want Buddy Hield, if we look at his contract, okay, 19 million or 19.8, so we'll say 20 million this past season. Sixers have his bird rights, and they would be able to pay him more than anybody else. Buddy Hield is not going to settle for 12 million a year. Buddy Hield is not going to settle for 13 million a year. He's going to want 25 a year. Now, he may not get that based on how bad he was at the end of the season. But he'll probably get around 20, 19, 18, I would assume. There's a team out there that needs shooting, that's desperate for shooting. For example, first team I could think of off the top of my head is the Orlando Magic. They desperately need shooting. They're going to pay Buddy Hield. Somebody's going to pay Buddy Hield. Am I saying he's an awful fit with the Sixers? No. Would I take Buddy Hield back? Yes. But at the right price. Because he did not live up to the hype. You gave up draft picks to get him. And he's going to want a payday. Hield didn't even play against the Knicks. You know why he didn't play? Because he stunk. That's why. That's why. Because he was awful. He was unplayable. Hield played good in the closeout game. Whip-de-doo. He played good in one closeout game. One game. We needed him for 3 months. Do I think he would get better with more time around Joel? Absolutely. But he was not good. No longer can the Sixers overpay guys who are not good. Who are glimpses. Flashes in the pan. Can't happen. So, bringing it all full circle back to the beginning. Paul George, I would potentially take a flyer on, but only at the right price. And only on the right amount of years, right? The right type of contract. I do not want to give out another max to a player that is above 30 years old and more injury prone and hasn't showed up at times in the playoffs. I don't want it. I don't want it anymore. You have Embiid, you have Maxey, you got to find the right role players, and you have to find the right fits. Secret Underdog says, RB speaking facts. What up, Secret? Welcome on in, man. Appreciate you tapping in. Shout out to everybody in here. We're about to get off and go stream the playoff game. So if you guys want to watch that game, definitely come in and hang out. But just wanted to address these rumors because it's really the first, like, almost confirmation that we got that, okay, here's who the Sixers are looking at. And we'll be doing a lot of shows going forward, especially when the playoffs end, draft stuff, free agency. We've already been dropping videos, so be sure to tap in. We'll have some guests on the show. Mr. Roddy Poo, $5 super chat says, yeah, we won't be a serious team until we get a starting caliber center to spell Joel. Claxton, JV, I want me a Nas Reed type. So I don't know what you mean by starting caliber center to spell Joel. Do you mean like, you know, be there when Joel gets injured or, you know, just back him up? I think what Minnesota is doing is very untraditional, but you know what, Roddy, to your point, you know when Nas Reed was drafted? Let me tell you, he wasn't. He wasn't drafted. A hidden gem. Another hidden gem. That's what the Sixers need. Nas Reed was a pretty decent college player. Nobody picked him up. Undrafted, gets a payday, 6th man of the year, and now he might win a damn championship. That's how I feel. Miles Bridges averages almost the exact same stats as PG and only costs $8 million. I don't think he would only cost $8 million, but Miles Bridges has a lot of off-the-court stuff, and I don't know if you want to bring that into this mix. Just being honest. He has a lot of off-the-court stuff going on. Maybe the Sixers take a flyer on it, but I don't know if I would touch that. So that's where we're at, ladies and gentlemen. We have an entire roster to build out around Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid. What do the Sixers do? They got to get creative. They have to find some gems, and they're going to be making a lot of moves. We'll be covering it all moving forward. Thank you to everybody for coming through. Once again, guys, use our BetUS link. Get a 125% deposit match bonus. Let's see what the odds are at right now. Get your final bets in for the game tonight. Let's see where they're at right now. It was a 4.5 spread. Let's see if it's still there or not. Still 4.5. So shout out to BetUS. Use our link. Get a 125% deposit match bonus up to $2,500 using our link down in the description. Shout out to BetUS. It might be the Paul George summer, man. PG might be heading to Philadelphia. What do you guys think, man? Lot of risk. Lot of risk. It's going to be interesting, though. It's going to be interesting. Ladies and gentlemen, hit that thumbs up, man. Hit that subscribe button. Thank you for coming through on a nice May evening. We'll be live in a little bit for the game tonight. And we'll watch some actual good hoops. Guys, have a great rest of your night. If you're watching this on the watch back, check us out on all audio platforms. Check us out on all platforms, Instagram, Twitter, Discord. Catch you on the next one, man. Peace.
This video is brought to you by BetUS Sportsbook and Casino.